Welcome back to Chicagolandians, a casual Chicago sports podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Cunningham, joined by my co-host, Conor Cunningham.
We're two brothers from the Chicagoland area talking about the latest and greatest in Chicago sports news.
Welcome back to another episode of Chicagolandians. I'm your co-host, Patrick Cunningham, and I'm of course joined by my wonderful co-host, Conor Cunningham.
Hello.
In today's episode, we're going to cover a little bit of our NFL news, but the focus of today's episode is going over the Bears 2024 projected opponents in our games and doing a little bit of predictions, wishful thinking, analyze their strengths, their weaknesses, and kind of make our predictions for how many wins, how many losses Bears are looking at this year. Connor, does that sound good to you?
Sounds wonderful.
So let's just dive right into it to some NFL news. Odell Beckham signed a deal with the Dolphins. I don't know if Odell's getting anyone excited nowadays, but I think he's such an iconic receiver. He's always going to generate some headlines, just like when he joined the Ravens. But maybe he'll finally get, well, he's already got a ring.
What, a 600 receiving season receiving yards? Yeah.
Yeah, so he's joining Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Obviously with Tua, maybe they can get something dynamic going. And then kind of an update with Caleb Williams immersing himself in Chicago culture. He was spotted today, I think, maybe yesterday, at a Chicago Cubs game. Notably, a Chicago Cubs game looked sold out compared to, I saw a video of a Sox game recently, and holy cow, I think I could have counted how many people showed up to that game. But Caleb Williams seems like he's loving the city. He's throwing that bear claw around everywhere. He's ready to go. I think Chicago's starting to love him.
Yeah, I wonder if they've tossed out the idea of him going to the Sox game. The 8-26 record might have put him off. I had seen photos of Trubisky and Fields. I don't know if it was their first baseball game appearance, but both of them in Sox jerseys, in Williams in a Cubs jersey. So maybe that's a death knell to go to the Sox game, but I don't know.
And then, Connor, you want to hit these next pieces?
Yeah, for sure. Just to hit on Odell Beckham real quick, I feel like I've been a conflicted Odell Beckham follower for a long time. His last 1,000-yard receiving year was in 2019, which was 5 years ago, and that's insane. I feel like every season there's a rumor about how stacked a receiving core is going to get when they add Odell Beckham, and then he has 350 receiving yards for the season. And I forgot how good of a player he was. Like his rookie season or like his second year, like 1,450 his second year, like dude was insane, but... Okay, moving on. There was a recent podcast appearance, Jalen Warren on Cameron Hayward's Anything But Football podcast, and he made a talk about how the special teams coordinator of the Steelers threw out the idea of Justin Fields returning kicks for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is certainly kind of like a, what did I hear there? I don't know. I think it's, with the new kickoff rules, people are thinking about creative ways to, outsmart the defense, I guess. Fields, obviously a dynamic runner, but certainly something that's got to be a red flag for Fields' agent to hear. Probably worked real hard to get him out of Chicago, and now to hear him being put at kick returner. Who knows if that'll actually happen, but certainly interesting.
They also, I think, signed Cordell Patterson, the Steelers. Maybe put the two of them back there to see what happens. I'm always curious about trying to put these strange players in a kick returning. Like Fields, obviously he's a great runner at quarterback, but I would think like a designated kick returner, like there are certainly people faster than him, right?
If he has to throw the ball, though, on the kickoff, I feel like he for sure has the advantage there, right?
Wait, but you can't throw you can't throw the ball, right?
I don't know. Throw it backwards, right? I don't know.
I wish the absolute best for Fields. I hope he does really well. I think it's sad how he left Chicago, and then seeing how things are a little bit different with Caleb, with how we're surrounding him with weapons. Obviously, situations are completely different. Like, we didn't have the opportunity to do that with Fields. Like, we didn't have the money, or the timeline didn't work out. But I still wish Fields the best, and I think seeing him as a kick returner would be depressioso. That'd be sad. That would be like Charlie Brown's sad music. Maybe from Fields' perspective, he wants like just any chance to get back out in the field, but like he was a starting quarterback last year, and certainly Fields can be a starter somewhere else. Like the Raiders, I think, would still be happy to have him over Gardner Minshew. I don't know. I don't want to see him kick returning.
I could imagine Justin Fields getting lit up on kickoff and doing, George Michael Bluth kind of Charlie Brown walk back off and getting his helmet blown off.
I mean, he's already always was so sad on the Bears sideline. Thinking of now of just like trouncing out, getting blown up, and then sitting for 20 minutes waiting for the Steelers.
Yeah, waiting for Russ to throw a pick. Yeah, I agree. It would be interesting when like he has like a 10-yard return or, can't break one loose to see people be like, the Steelers got to surround him with kickoff weapons. He needs more weapons on kickoff, but I don't know. No, I wish him all the best. Yeah, second piece of news, not that this is a dog Fields podcast. Look, we love Justin Fields, but the Steelers did decline his 5th-year option. And something to note, as of, let's see here, pulling up this tweet, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop, beep, boop. As of May 3rd, there were 12 players from the Justin Fields draft class who had their 5th-year options declined. That does not include Alex Leatherwood, who got cut, as well as Rashad Bateman, who has not played enough. Notable players include Zach Wilson at the 2, Trey Lance at the 3, Justin Fields at the 11, and Mac Jones at the 15. And Trevor Lawrence went in that first overall pick. Jury's still out on Trevor Lawrence. I just always think it's crazy to look back at these draft classes, especially with this draft class where you see 6 quarterbacks taken and you see that one class where you're like, wow, 5 quarterbacks went. It must have been a loaded class, and literally 4 of them are complete busts. So.
And I remember that draft class, and I was thinking, and even with this class, I'm thinking, wow, all 6 of these teams, they are set up. And you think wow, especially in that Fields draft, you're like, wow, 5 teams just got set. This is going to be interesting NFL. And then next year, you're like, oh boy. Many of those quarterbacks have busted, but then also in general, you just look at the draft in general, you look at so many players, just how many players bust, even in the first round. Right now, I feel like, the top 32 picks in the first round, I feel like I know the majority of the people, but it's going to be interesting in 2 or 3 years looking back and just thinking oh, remember that guy?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I remember everyone and their mom was like, oh, did you see how Mac Jones walked out? Yeah, this is the start of everything. When Mac Jones got drafted to the Patriots, you're like, oof, it's all happening. And then, you look back at this and you're like, I can't believe Mac Jones started for 3 seasons. It's insane. Also notable players there, Kadarius Toney, Najee Harris, and Zaven Collins out of Tulsa. That was a fun pick. But yeah, moving on. Last piece of news. Chase Claypool recently signed with the Buffalo Bills. So congrats to former Bear Chase Claypool. This is his since 2022. This is his 4th team that he has played for. So he's played for the Steelers, Bears, Dolphins, and now the Bills. So Diggs out the door. They kind of bring Claypool into, I guess, kind of slot in as that replacement there. But yeah, I think Chase Claypool's still trying to find his feet in the NFL.
There needs to be a serious investigation for what happened to Chase Claypool following that first year of the Steelers, his rookie year. That first year, I was like, holy cow, this guy's Mapletron. Insane. And then he had a rough end to the Steelers, I think, was not very good, which is how the Bears came to acquire him. But just when he came to the Bears, just fell off a cliff. There needs to be there might be some psyop plans going on in there, some deeper things going on there.
I mean, he had almost 900 receiving yards his rookie year. He had 860 his second year, then 450. Yeah, that's tough. Not what you want to see. Yeah, hey, best of luck to Chase Claypool, man. Friend of the pod.
Okay, so is that every bit of news? You want to move on to the next segment?
Yeah, that's all the news that came across my desk this week. I think that's all I had for me.
Okay, let's get into it. So before we get into specific teams and specific games, just as an overview for the Bears, for the 2024 season, our betting odds are 8.5 wins. And then we also have the 3rd in strength of schedule, which means we have the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. I mean, we have a pretty easy schedule, and I think it's very, very possible to get over 8.5 wins. I've got high hopes, but for my personal predictions, I got to stat it out. I ran my simulations. I have us finishing 10-7. I think we maybe start a little slow, little growing pains with Caleb, but we finish that year maybe with a playoff push. Maybe win the first game and then maybe sneak out a little bit, or maybe we go all the way.
Maybe you win the first game, you just keep dancing. How about that?
Sauteing all the way through. But I got us at 10-7. Connor, where you got us?
So I had 15-2, dropping to the 49ers and Lions and kind of just running the table after that. So I statted out Williams for 6,000 passing yards. And then I kind of reeled it back in. I also have us at a conservative swing 9-8 to 10-7. I think it's tough to pick some of these NFC North games just because, like, you know, looking at the Lions last year, like how we played the Lions, or, you know, in division games always different. But yeah, I think 10-7, 9-8 is, you know, a high bar to set. But, you know, why don't we aim high? So yeah, we can get into it now.
Okay, so the first game we're going to cover is a loss to the 49ers at San Francisco. 49ers, honestly, they're projected 11.5 wins this year, Super Bowl attendees last year. According to weighted offense and weighted defense, they had the number 1 offense and the number 4 defense. I mean, they were dominant. I was doing some research looking at PFF grades for each teams, and you really kind of got to work hard to find top 5 players for some of the teams, like the Jags or the Titans. But like, holy cow, the 49ers, you know, just some PFF grades. Nick Bosa at 92.7, Ayuk 92.3, McCaffrey 90.6, Trent Williams 89.7, Purdy 88.4, Kittle and Debo all over 80. Just like an absolute star-studded cast that is going to be dominant, I think, for X amount of years until they have to start signing some contracts again. But I have us losing to the Niners. Yeah, Connor, how do you got that game going for us? Fallen?
Yeah, so I think like the Niners, tough matchup for the Bears. Interesting enough, the 13-4 San Francisco 49ers of 2022 lost to the Chicago Bears. So how about that? Something to think about. That was Justin Fields' opening day swan song, where he had that Dante Pettis touchdown. So, you know, crazy things can happen. That was a terrible Bears team, number 1 pick. But I think it's a tough matchup. You know, like you said, their roster is absolutely loaded. Honestly, you kind of don't comprehend how they're able to sign all these players. I think having Brock Purdy signed for like $40,000 a year helps with the contracts. But yeah, Nick Bosa is crazy. And in that receiving room, we'll see where Debo or Brandon Ayuk end up going, or where they're at when the season starts with them drafting a first-round receiver in Pierce Hall. But, you know, it's a tough matchup. I think they're just a talented team all around. I think as much as we love the Bears, as optimistic as I am about Caleb Williams, I think just on paper, you can't project it as a win. Maybe when the actual schedule comes out, it's like, you know, a deep January, a deep December game in Chicago. But yeah, I don't know. I think for right now, we got to chalk it up to an L.
The next game we're going to go over, where we've got the Panthers, who I think we're absolutely going to stomp on. 2023, Panthers finished 2-15, obviously finished with the worst record in the NFL, which is why we now have Caleb Williams. 2024, following the draft of Xavier Legette, I guess that was good enough to bump them up to 4.5 projected wins. I think I might be hitting that under still. I don't know. Panthers, I think, in for another rough season. Some notable players or some notes. You know, I think the one highlight from the season was Derek Brown, a defensive player. I think he got over 100 tackles. Seemed pretty good. Seemed like he was good. Other than that, I noticed I have Bryce Young.
Did he make the list of top 5, or did you just include him in the top 5?
I think when you think, this is an example of a team that was hard for me to think of top players. I think it's hard for me to not just think of players I can name, because I think Bryce Young is a player that I can name, and he's certainly the most relevant player, right? He's like the first overall pick. But here's some stats for him. He threw 11 passing touchdowns and 10 interceptions, which, you know, we have noted down as not good. Is notable. He did throw for, I think, 300 more passing yards than Justin Fields, though. So if that ever gives you any more things for Fields, so tells you about our offense. But, you know, obviously you can't credit everything to Bryce Young. He was thrown to Adam Thielen and DJ Chark, one of the worst offenses in the league. Actually, they had the second worst offense in the league and the 25th worst defense. So they were terrible. Nothing went well for them, and I think not much is going to get better. Drafting the 28-year-old Xavier Legette, I don't think things are going to look good. I think this is our first win.
Yeah, I think that second-round pick we got next year is might slot in at the 33 overall, which is super nice. Panthers, poverty franchise right now. David Tepper looking interesting right now. Fields truthers are shaking right now, hearing that Bryce Young has thrown for more yards with DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, and Hayden Hurst. as their receiving core. But yeah, I think the Panthers are kind of, I will say, I think pendulum's swinging pretty far right now with Bryce Young. I think it's unfair to give him such a hard time for the success or lack of success that he's had. Panthers are a poor team, and maybe next year he'll have growth. He's not just going to be a bust after 1 year. So maybe he'll be good, but right now, using past evidence as a future predictor, he looks terrible. So I think that is a W for the Bears. Now, Panthers get the number 1 pick. You think they're pulling the trigger on a quarterback, or what do you think?
I think considering next year's draft class for quarterbacks going to be pretty. I mean, if it's like him or Shedeur Sanders or the Georgia quarterback, I'd probably
Carson Beck,
still
maybe?
stick. I would not take a quarterback there for the Panthers. I think they got just about a zillion other things to fill.
Carson Beck, his neck longer than Bryce Young. I think if that's something they're profiling as, he beats him in the neck category. A long neck. All right, so moving on from that.
Okay, great. So I'm going to hit you with another loss we got, at least loss in my department. I've got the Indianapolis Colts, who this is a team that definitely was not on my radar this season. There are a lot of teams that you just don't see either on your TV or you don't have players on their fantasy team, and they just kind of disappear and you never hear about them. Those teams are like the Colts or the Titans, where it's just like,
the Titans are not a real team. I agree.
like, seriously, I don't think I've ever seen, barely see Titans games unless I have Derrick Henry on my fantasy team. But the Colts, I have learned after reviewing their season, they actually had a fantastic 2023 season, especially considering their 2022 season, where they came off a 4-12 and won 2022 season. They had Jeff Saturday as the coach, absolute disaster. Entering the 2023 season, they had a incredibly rigorous coaching interview process. I saw they interviewed like 13 coaches and finally found their guy on Shane Steichen, who entering his second season, he led the Colts to a 9-8 season, and they were actually 1 game away from the playoffs. They lost their win and get in game against the Texans, but they're a hot team right now. Some of the top players that they've got on their team, we've got Forrest Buckner, Jonathan Taylor, Quentin Nelson, and then AR-15 Anthony Richardson. And then, the receiving core, Michael Pittman, and then do you know who they drafted?
Yeah, drafted Adonai Mitchell.
Okay, yeah, so there you go. Bolstering up that receiving core for Anthony Richardson. I think this will be a close game. Right now, I'm giving it up to the Colts. Connor, what do you got? What do you got for this game?
Yeah, I chalked this game down for a W. I'm always hesitant to truly believe in the Colts. It's just kind of something that I feel in my bones. They did have a successful season last year. They had that famous Gardner Minshew pass that the guy dropped, the backup running back dropped with Jonathan Taylor on the sideline. So that was a tough way to end their season. But they actually have studs, I feel like, on offense. Like their playmakers profile as solid people. They got Jonathan Taylor, Adonai Mitchell they just added, which is interesting. Josh Downs is all right. Michael Pittman, I think, is a very solid receiver. Alec Pierce is he's there. He's running his routes as hard as he can. They have at least draft capital invested into their receiving room. And I think Anthony Richardson, he started 4 games last year before getting hurt. He was dynamic when he was playing. His first game was super sick and he looked great, but obviously it's hard with a small sample size to see how he did. But I believe his fantasy finishes, I think the 3 games or 4 games that he played, I think he might have been top 10 in all of them. He's definitely a dynamic player. But I think the Colts, I have it chalked down as a win. Could see it going either way, though. This is a noon game for sure.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson's an interesting case. Just the type of player that he is, and obviously small sample size, but being that big body quarterback that runs a lot, I think he got hurt every time he tried to run on the goal line. That's where his injuries came from. So we'll see longevity, hope for the best for him, but he looked nasty when he was playing. Colts, interesting team to look out for in 2024. So the next game I got on our list, predictions, I have as a win is the Patriots. Another abysmal season. They finished at 4-13. They're projected 4.5 wins. Top players, Jabril Peppers, leading with the defensive safety is not a great start. And they recently fired Bill Belichick, end of a dynasty, and they hired Jared Mayo as their replacement coach. Obviously coming in with Drake May as their quarterback, also drafted Jalen Polk, looking to restart things after the experiment that was Mac Jones, but I think the Bears come out victorious in this game.
I agree. New England's looking like, I don't even know, it's a wasteland right now, especially sending Drake May out there. Young, happy looking, bright eyed Drake May, sending him in there. So who knows? Maybe they'll figure it out. It's always interesting. You don't know when a new regime comes in, especially I think they have a new GM now because Bill Belichick was also the GM. Whole new staff coming in. It's hard to actually predict what's going to happen. Like, look at Stroud with their, D'Amico Ryans and the rest of their staff coming in. But, on paper, doesn't project to be a great team. So I think this is a W for the Bears.
All right, so the next game that I got coming up is I think, potentially one of the most exciting games that we have, which, 3 years ago, I would said was one of the most boring games we could have had. But it's against the Houston Texans. I think this has potential this could certainly be a primetime game. I think the storyline is very interesting. Obviously, the Texans, a couple of years ago when they beat might have been the Colts. I forgot who they beat, to give us the first overall pick that spurred all of this great things that led us to Caleb Williams. And then obviously the Texans now have CJ Stroud. We're a surprise success story last year, have a lot going for them. Entering 2024, CJ Stroud's kind of becoming this face of the NFL, I would say. You see him everywhere, and people really think he's going to be good. My hope, maybe, for this year is the Texans kind of are bad this year, and CJ Stroud doesn't do very good, kind of shake up the NFL. But some of the top players, I mean, they got studs on offense, Nico Collins and Tank Dell. And then their defense is pretty good too with Will Anderson and Derek Stingley. I have this as a loss. I've heard rumors that maybe this could be one of the first games of the season. This could be an early game.
Ooh.
And I think we are probably going to be, if it's an early game, I think we're going to be figuring stuff out with Caleb. If they face us at the end of the year, though, I think it'd be different.
Good luck,
and obviously, we don't know the schedule yet, but I got it as a loss. How about you, Connor?
Yeah, that's crazy seeing Nico Collins' PFF score of 91. That's insane. I also have this as a loss. I agree. I think I've learned, when I was younger, I was troubled why I always disliked young quarterbacks coming in and being good. And I think I figured the root of it is it's so frustrating to see somebody's problem solved so easily. The Texans, honestly, they've drafted 2 quarterbacks, I feel like, recently, like 2 actual quarterbacks, not Davis Mills. Drafting Deshaun Watson and CJ Stroud, it seems like they can just draft quarterbacks and it works out fine. And they're the Bears. So yeah, CJ Stroud's great. I think he was super fun to watch last year. Incredible to see him lead him to a playoff win. But yeah, I think this projects as a loss. I will say it is funny to hear now the narrative switch that has happened for this Texans receiving core. They were by far the worst receiving core that was entering the season last year. And then they just now are elevated to the best or one of the best, minus the addition of Stephon Diggs. But I feel like just the way that Stroud was able to elevate Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, and Tank Dell was really incredible. And I think with the addition of Joe Mixon and Stephon Diggs, it'll definitely be a high-powered team, or at least projects to be a high-powered team. So I think it's fair to say it's a loss, yeah.
That's what a great quarterback does. He elevates players who didn't think were good and makes them awesome. That's what Brady did for his entire career, right? And you see a quarterback like Stroud makes a receiving core that he thought was bad. Now everyone's like, oh, Tank Dell is actually kind of nice. That's my quick aside about what makes Stroud, his rookie season, unbelievable. The way he was able to elevate the Texans roster and make a playoff berth. And I think they won a playoff game, right?
Yes, they beat the Browns. Yeah, no, I totally agree when you say Brady elevating the level of play. Sid Luckman elevated Eggs Mansky, Phil Martinovich. Both of those receivers, I feel like were able to take big steps forward in the 40s because of Sid Luckman's play. And I think Fields is something that he wasn't able to do. That's the mark of a true GOAT, the quarterback position.
So next game I got coming up as a dub for the Bears. I've got let's go over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars are a team that had a very disappointing season where they started off real hot. They opened up 6-2, ended up going 3-6 last half of the games and did not make the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence was injured throughout the season along with Travis Etienne and still kind of leaves everyone wondering, is Trevor Lawrence the answer to the Jaguars' problems? Is he this Messiah quarterback? But I think the Bears come out winning this game. Projected 8.5 wins this year, and I think we come out victorious. Just real quick for the Jags, they had the 18th offense, so not so good, and the 10th defense. Josh Allen for the Jags is really is pretty good. He's an 89.5 Pro Football Focus score. And it's funny because his name's Josh Allen. But yeah, I think we come out on top in this game. How about you, Connor?
Yeah, I got this as a W as well. It's funny. I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of seen as somebody who maybe jury's still out on him just because the Jags were 9-8 last year, or 8-8 this year, 9-8 the year before. But he had in back-to-back season he had 4,000 passing yards. Crazy to think about somebody that you would want to get rid of throwing for 4,000. It's crazy.
My God, those are surprising stats. I did not know that. Okay, so moving on to the next games, we're planning on later in the episode diving more into the NFC North games with the Lions, Packers, and Vikings. So we're going to do a little bit faster breakdowns for the remaining games. But we first got a home game against the Rams. I got this as a loss. Rams had a pretty good season last year, and I think, especially with a pass-heavy offense, I don't think we're going to come out on top on this one. I think our DBs fail us in this game. How about you, Connor?
I got this as a loss too. Similar wavelength.
I think we've had all similar predictions so far. Next game,
We're different on the Colts, right? You said Colts is a loss.
Yeah. So I got Seahawks next. I got Seahawks coming out as a dub. I think Geno Smith, the storyline is just about over for Geno. And I also think DK Metcalf more and more is becoming a problem for the Seahawks. And I think maybe first season without Pete Carroll, they're going to be kind of learning, figuring things out, seeing where they are. I also think their offense is kind of running out of steam. I think
Wow, you're making a lot of statements right now.
That's my bold predictions. Kind of how do you got that game going?
No, I got it as a win too. It seems like you're writing Geno off, but everyone wrote Geno off and he didn't write back, so maybe he'll not write back again. Also, interesting opinion on DK Metcalf. That kind of seems like that's edging on the precipice of hand the ball back to the ref, but I don't know. I agree though. I think we can get it. I think the Seahawks are arrows pointing down right now for the Seahawks, especially if they maybe missed that window on taking that quarterback. But yeah, I think win this game.
He had a lot of penalties for roughing defenders. And hey, man, it's great when you're winning, but when you're losing, it's just like, what are you doing, man? Next game, I got the Cardinals. Cardinals had another rough season, which is why they had the 4th pick this year. I got this as a dub for us. Cardinals, I think it might be a interesting team this year now that they got Kyler Murray back paired with Marvin Harrison, but I still got this as a dub for us. They had the worst defense in the league last year, and I think our offense is going to smash them.
W as well. I think the Cardinals could have come out and surprised, but right now I'm saying it's the W.
And then last 2 games, I got the Titans and the Commanders. I got these both as dubs. Titans and Commanders are both struggling teams, both top 10 picks in the draft. And, Titans with Will Levis, still kind of question marks out there. Aging DeAndre Hopkins. They now have Tony Pollard. They got a decent offense, but obviously lose Derrick Henry. Actually, they did not have a decent offense. They had 25th offense. So they did not have a good offense or a good defense. They are a very mid team, and I think we come out on top. And then Commanders, total rebuild with Jane Daniels. They had the 2nd worst defense in the league, one of the worst offenses in the league, led by Sam Howell. They got a lot of wood to chop. Yeah, I think Jane Daniels has a rough start. I think Jane Daniels is due for a rough first year, and I think we win both of those games. How about you, Connor?
Yeah, I got those both as W's. I think those definitely will be interesting though, especially the Patriots and the Commanders game having the rookie quarterbacks play. Interesting to see how Will Levis will play with a full year in the system, with them trying to do their best to surround Will Levis. But I think both these games could be wins.
Okay, so now this is going to lead us into the NFC North specific games. We're going to have maybe a little bit more to talk about. So the first team that I'm going to cover is the Vikings, which I think could turn out to be maybe a new rivalry brewing, maybe with the Bears, in addition to Packers, because they obviously just drafted J.J. McCarthy with the number 10 pick. So they got 2. We got Caleb Williams and J.J. McCarthy both starting their careers in the NFC North. Vikings have a pretty stud. They got a pretty good offense, obviously led by Jay Jettas, Justin Jefferson, but they also have TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, and now with Aaron Jones at their running back, feel like they're surrounding McCarthy with some pretty good pieces. They also just drafted Dallas Turner, and did they make some other big acquisitions on defense? I know they got rid of Danielle Hunter. 2023, they finished 23rd in offense. They did have some huge injuries with Kirk and Justin Jefferson, and had Josh Dobbs and that other guy playing quarterback. And I think are going to be I think the whole NFC North is going to be really good this year, but I think the Vikings are the weakest of the division. So we're playing 2 games, Vikings. I got both of them as dubs. I think we start running the Vikings.
You think this is the start of it? Yeah, I got a splitting with the Vikings. I do agree. I think the Vikings profile is a pretty bad team, especially, before with Sam Darnold as their projected starter before McCarthy came in. And I think it'll be interesting to see how McCarthy develops, especially being like the fifth quarterback taken in the draft. But I do have a splitting here. I think the Vikings are kind of at an interesting spot right now with like Kevin O'Connell. I feel like they came in really, or, everyone knows like O'Connell came in so hot. They had that crazy season where they were winning all those close games. Definitely had a regression last year. It didn't help with Kirk getting injured. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Jefferson gets in his next contract, or if he receives that next contract. Couldn't imagine they let him walk, but I feel like the Vikings sit kind of like at a weird spot. I do like their draft. I think McCarthy, we'll see how he does, but I think getting Turner, trading up for Turner was a good move. They did sign Jonathan Greenard for a 4-year, $76 million contract, so that was their big like edge rusher to replace Daniil Hunter. They did make some big moves in free agency. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Vikings I agree with you. I think they're the worst team in the NFC North right now, but I still can see the Bears splitting for sure.
Be interesting to see. I think maybe if this season goes bad, they might say, okay, our timeline needs to move back a little bit, and we can't make Jefferson the most expensive receiver in the league. It would be tough to see, I guess, because they got rid of Kirk to kind of reset the timeline with McCarthy, but maybe they want to restart and open up the cap space to fix other holes than just having Jefferson. But I don't know. We'll see. Do you have a take on that?
Yeah, I think that was the thing people were thinking about, throwing out the idea of them trading Jefferson to get the number one pick for Williams when they were still, hopes of keeping Fields. I feel like the NFL is something like that, where that doesn't, I don't feel like it's like the MLB where you could kind of go into these like big rebuilds where you shop people like in the MLB or in the NBA. I feel like when you get a guy like this with Jefferson, he kind of remains on the team for a long time. So I would imagine Jefferson's on the team for the foreseeable future. Maybe they go for a full teardown, but I think he'll stay around. Yeah.
That's a good point. That's definitely not something you see in the NFL where it's like, oh, okay, sell the whole team, get rid of everyone. Yeah, you see like legends stay on the same team for their entire careers, like Larry Fitzgerald or DeAndre Hopkins stayed for Texans for a long time. Keenan Allen, they hang around, so it'd be interesting. Okay, next team I want to highlight. I'm going to finish with the Packers. So I'm going to go over to the Lions, one of the most exciting teams of 2023. They finished 12-5, one game away, made it to the NFC Championship against the 49ers, came up just short. They're actually projected 10.5 wins this year, so lower than 2023. And they also have a star-studded roster led up by Penei Sewell, who just became the highest paid offensive lineman, and I think is considered one of the best. I mean, obviously one of the best linemen in the league. They got Aiden Hutchinson on defense. Makes sense when you pay him that much. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff, Sam Laporta. They got a pretty star-studded cast of characters, and I think we drop both of these games to the Lions, which is crazy to say considering 3 years ago, however bad the Bears were, I feel like we could always scrape out some wins against the Lions. You always knew you could win against the Lions. I remember DeAndre Swift, ironically, dropping a pass to have the Bears win one of those Lions games a couple years ago. But no, I think the Lions have done a serious rebuild and are really now a force to be reckoned with, and haven't made many changes this offseason to make their team worse. And looking at Lions like Reddit yesterday, seems like everyone's pretty hopeful for the season. I think I don't think we come out on top, especially away. I think Lions and Jared Goff plays their best ball when they're at Ford
Field, maybe.
Yeah, Ford Field.
While you're prowling the Lions subreddit there.
Yeah, I gotta dig deep. I gotta dig deep in there. Yeah, they love Penei Sewell. That was my read.
You gotta love him, man. Yeah, I will be honest, I really wanted to see the Lions do poorly last year. I think when there's takes that everyone is in on, it's fun to be against it. But the Lions, I feel like they profile as a team, or the Lions just look stacked right now. They also signed Amon-Ra. St. Brown just got a huge bag of money too. So they've been signing their young players. But I mean, they got so many players right now, especially for Laporta to come in and be as successful as he did, those Iowa tight ends. But Lions look great. I will say Lions also looked great last year, and the Bears should have won both games against the Lions. I think it'll be interesting. The Lions will go as far as Jared Goff can take them. And, Jared Goff, I think his career, total 180 since coming to Detroit. I do think he's a good quarterback, and I think he can lead them to the playoffs and deep into the playoffs. But it will be interesting to see if Jared Goff can really become a Super Bowl quarterback. I know he had that one stint Super Bowl, but I think the Lions are a solid team. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears can pick up a game, though. We played them very well last year, and we split games, should have won both of them. So we'll see.
Dude, we picked off Goff 5 times last season. I can't believe we didn't win one of those games.
No, we won.
We did win one? Okay, cool. Then that makes sense because we really had Goff's numbers. Say what you will about 12-5. When Goff stepped on and lined up against that orange and blue, shivered me timbers. He was scared. He threw the ball right to us.
Tyquan Stevens is his dad.
So moving on to the last team in the NFC, the last 2 games of our season, we got the Green Bay Packers. Another dominant team, pretty dominant team. I think a surprising team last year. Surprised a lot of people. Definitely. Huge question marks following the departure of Aaron Rodgers. But with the rise of Jordan Love, who I think if there's maybe one player in the NFL that I wanted to see fail, it was Jordan Love. I think it's just unfair. The Packers for 20 years, I think maybe, have had good quarterback play. I think longer than 20 years. Rodgers, I think, has been in the league for maybe 20 years. They've been having good quarterback play for forever. And I think Jordan Love seemingly being good last year is frustrating. They did get rid of Aaron Jones this year, but I think they're looking strong again this year. They got a lot of depth at every position. Not a ton of standout stud players, but I think they just have a lot of depth and good offensive weapons. Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Who else they got on?
They got a bunch of young guys. They got Jaden Reed and Bo Melton too. Bo Melton, I feel like, was cooking the Bears last year, and Dontavian Wicks is also super solid.
Oh, I remember Bo Melton. I feel like I remember watching that game and just thinking, who is Bo Melton? Who is that guy? And I feel like he would dance all the time when he caught the ball on us, or he would really swag it out. Packers. This is my storyline for the Packers. I say we lose first game against Packers. Early season, we lose that game. I think end of season, I think Bears are on a tear. Caleb Williams picks it up, learns the NFL, and I think we just start stomping on throats and then we don't look back. I think we play the Packers probably our last 3 games as Packers. I think we win that game. I think we lose the first game. We play them close. We see flashes, but I think we lose. But then we come back, finish the season strong, regular season strong by a win against the Packers, leading us into the playoffs. Connor, where you got those games going?
Hey, that's fair. I do have the Bears splitting with the Packers. That's an optimistic take. I would love to see, Caleb Williams end the season with a win, show his fingernails, saying F you Packers or something on there. I think that'd be pretty great. I think it's just crazy to see Jordan Love, what ended up happening to him. Kind of interesting now with Penix coming into the Falcons. And you feel like Jordan Love was sitting behind for so long. It was 2 years he sat behind Aaron Rodgers and then came in and, obviously did what he did. So it'd be interesting to see if something happens with Penix there. But I think Jordan Love is the best quarterback in the NFC North right now. I think he's better than Jared Goff. What he did in the playoffs, I feel like was, 100%. I think he's better than Goff. Yeah. I think what he did in the playoffs, was very impressive. I think the leap that he took, he really did look like he belongs there. And as much as I hated to say that he looked like he belonged there, he really did look like a pro quarterback and looked like he can lead the Packers. So it does suck that it went so well for them. So we'll see how it goes. I would love nothing more than to Jordan Love to kind of return to being bad, but I would love for him to be bad. But I think the Packers might keep cooking.
That concludes the season breakdown. Just for a review, I got the Bears finishing at 10-7 and making the playoffs. Connor also has us at 9-8, 10-7, swinging. Connor, do you have anything to add? I want to end the episode with a quick college quiz again. See how you do. Just to see. Connor, you got anything to add about the season?
Nothing. I just want to say, feeling hopeful about the team. I think 9-8. 10-7. I think 9-8 is the key record. I think if we get to 9-8, we can get to the playoffs. Caleb Williams can fight for his first playoff win in his rookie season. I think that's really what we should be looking for right now. But hey, aim higher, man. Aim for the, I guess you say aim for the stars, land on the moon. Yeah, I think that'd be pretty nice.
Hey, how about we aim for Jupiter and then we land on the sun? How about we do that? Now we're going to move on to another classic segment for the podcast, become a fan favorite. We're going to ask Connor college players and
Connor's
see if he
college
knows.
corner. There it is.
See if he knows what is going on. I got 4 players for you, Connor. Some easy, some hard. See how you do. Okay. First
what
player.
Division 4 players you can
Okay, first player we got cooking MVP candidate Myles Garrett. Where do you go?
Texas A&M.
Boom. Okay. Count it. Okay.
Like he's the number 1 MVP candidate right now?
Sorry, I phrased that wrong. PFF 101 best players of the 2023 season. He was number 1.
Makes sense.
Number, I think 6 maybe player. Dexter Lawrence. Do you know where he went to college?
Sexy Dexy Clemson, right?
2 for 2 so far, Connor. Okay, I hope I didn't make this too easy. Now we got, okay, well, I know you're going to get this one. Do you know where Penei Sewell went to college?
Oregon, right?
Yep. Okay. 3 for 3. Maybe this one will stump you. We got 49ers veteran Trent Williams. Do you know where he went to school?
Ooh, a good question. I'm almost positive it's Oklahoma, but I will think about it before locking that in. Because he's an older player. Is it Oklahoma?
Oklahoma is correct. Good to stay with your gut.
Yeah, there you go. 4 for 4, baby.
There you go. So Connor finishes 4 for 4 on 4 for 4 today. That makes Connor.
Sir, baby.
You've hit 11 and missed 3, so you're 11 for 14 so far. Pretty hot. So that'll do it for another episode of the Chicago Landians. Quick review, we gave a season breakdown, our predictions for the season, our wins and losses. As always, thanks for listening. We appreciate you listening to the end. If you're interested in staying up with Chicago Landians, you can follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter or X. Find us all at the Chicago Landians, and make sure to share the podcast with your friends and families, or even leave us a review on iTunes or on Apple Podcasts.
5 stars only.
Yeah, or Spotify. Yeah, 5 stars only. Connor, do you have anything to add?
Excited to think about the season. Excited to think about the future playoff wins that we'll have. But no, got nothing else to say. But bear down, baby.
Bear down, baby. Have a great day.
Oh, also, if Karan Amagaji is listening to this podcast right now, please respond to my DM. I want to interview you, man.